Hello friends, wonderful greetings of today to all of you. I hope all of you are doing great. So here I, Kunal Nagpal, once again welcome you to an amazing session wherein we are basically going to have an overview of India's performance in two main aspects, that is the extent to which India is being able to justify its role towards the fulfillment of the sustainable development goals. The set of 17 sustainable development goals, that is the SDGs, was actually formulated by the United Nations quite a number of years back, considering the need of the hour. That is the concern for the environment and for the social issues which need to be addressed by the entire mankind on the globe. And we are basically going to see what are the key aspects because of which India's performance is being appreciated. Secondly, we are going to discuss what insights are being given on India's performance at a global level in actually the response to the COVID-19 pandemic. And this report has been formed by the Gates Foundation CEO, Mark Sussman. So here goes the session. So here we start with the session. India has the right ingredients to step up progress in order to achieve the SDGs. This statement has been given by the Gates Foundation. We should actually be proud of our overall strategic formulation and implementation because of our long-term strategic thinkers, our responsible leaders, because of which even being a developing country, still we are able to address the key issues which are of global concern. This is actually very, very important point which needs to be highlighted, and we need to be proud of our amazing performance. So it states that the foundation's goalkeepers report 2022 released recently said 7 years after 193 nations agreed to the ambitious target of achieving 17 sustainable development goals, that is SDGs, the world is on track to achieve almost none of the goals. That is, if we do the comparative analysis, this comparative analysis has been done by the Gates Foundation, and they have seen that India has actually outperformed various countries. They have actually stated that the entire world, leaving India, has actually contributed nothing. That's their statement. So while India has actually faced a setback too in reaching the targets, the country, with its financial inclusion, political will, and women-centered public policy design, has the right tools to step up work on its progress. This is stated by Gurgi Ghosh, President, Global Policy and Advocacy, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Back-to-back crises in the world, starting with the COVID-19 pandemic 3 years back, followed by the ongoing conflict in Ukraine, which began on February 24, 2022, resulting in food insecurity for millions around the world, have actually led to the world falling behind of many of the sustainable development goals. Actually, these are very tough times, as stated in our previous sessions as well. These are quite sensitive times. As we have said, COVID-19 pandemic, then followed with the Ukraine-Russia war, and also, as we had discussed earlier, that is a slowdown in China. These times are quite sensitive, because of which the focus of many countries has shifted to actually sustain themselves, right? So the 17 sustainable development goals, which 193 nations actually promised to actually achieve maximum of them by 2030, they are not able to give their best efforts. Rather, as stated by this foundation, they have contributed even the negligible contribution has been made by many countries leaving India. So while India has faced a setback too in the reaching of the targets, but the country with its financial inclusion, these are our areas of strength. The country with its financial inclusion, political will, and women-centered public policy design has the right tools to step up work on its progress. This statement has been made by Gargi Ghosh, who is the president of the Global Policy and Advocacy Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. The foundation's Goalkeepers Report 2022, released recently, said 7 years after 193 nations agreed to the ambitious target of achieving 17 SDGs, the world is on track to achieve almost none of these goals. So the projections show that India too will not meet several SDG targets by 2030, and actually quite specifically miss the target for stunting maternal deaths, child mortality, neonatal mortality, and tuberculosis. So these are the areas on which we need to put more efforts. Also, here I would like to state that in the recent report by the United Nations, India's hunger report, India's performance in terms of the number of hungry people is quite bad. India's performance is quite bad. India has a lot of hungry people. We would discuss that aspect as well. So, for under 5 mortality rate in this particular aspect, India is projected to fall to 27 deaths per 1,000 live births in 2030 from 33 in 2021, right? So this is the goal being set by us from 33 to 27. So the SDG target is to end the preventable deaths of children under 5 years of age and bring it down to at least 25 per 1,000 live births by 2030. So we are actually trying to bring it from 33 to 25. Earlier it was set as 27, but we are actually quite confident that we would bring it from 33 to 25. Basically, as our medical technology is advancing, along with that, the awareness campaigns are being arranged even in the rural areas on how to maintain hygiene, on actually how to maintain hygiene, and the camps particularly held for the women and children. For actually, because for a child, initial 5 years are quite crucial, because a lot of vaccinations have to be they have actually to be given to them. And in our rural areas, because of less awareness, less education, most of the people are actually not even aware what vaccinations they should provide to their children. So, along with the advancement of technology, we should pay a lot of emphasis towards educating the public by arranging the mass awareness campaigns at a global level, at a national level, particularly addressing the rural population of India. Keeping in mind the rural population is nearly 60% of the total population in India. And along with that, as stated by me, we also need to flourish in terms of hygiene. If we talk about the rural India specifically, as our respected PM Modi sir has emphasized and highlighted this point to be addressed, that there should be a toilet in every house. This is very important. This is a very important hygiene factor. And obviously, as we know that these things are interrelated, this would obviously impact the statistics of the diseases which are caused because of the unhygiene surroundings. So the mortality rate under 5 would also come down, because as we know, the children from children aged between 0 to 5 bracket are actually more prone to catch infections. So these aspects are quite interrelated, and hence they should be considered with utmost importance in order to reduce the under 5 mortality rate. So among Indian states, Uttar Pradesh, Bihar and Chhattisgarh have the highest under 5 mortality rate. Stunting, so the stunting of children under 5, it would fall only 2 percentage points in 2030 compared to the target of 15% the report has projected. This is a very important statement which has been given by the National Family Health Survey report. This is a very important statistic. That is a very important projection being made by them. I repeat, among the Indian states, Uttar Pradesh, Bihar and Chhattisgarh have the highest under 5 mortality rate. So, stunting of children under 5, it would fall only 2 percentage points in 2030 compared to the target of 15% the report has projected. So, we have to arrange the mass awareness campaigns in more numbers and at a very supervised way, in a very supervised way in these states, because as all of us know, if we consider the overall literacy rate, it is quite less in Bihar, Uttar Pradesh and Chhattisgarh, if we see the statistical data of the literacy rate. So we need to pay more emphasis towards this. So despite the improvements in the overall maternity mortality, as shown by the National Family Health Survey data, the country close to reaching the target of 70 deaths per 1 lakh might still miss the target set at 70 deaths per 1 lakh by 2030. Gates Foundation has been supporting the drivers of sustainable development goals for 2 decades now, tracking data, and there has been incredible progress on school enrollments, bringing people out of poverty, vaccination, etc. India has been a huge part of that story. And now, if we consider this particular COVID pandemic, this pandemic has slowed the progress down, specifically in the countries such as Africa, where the progress is quite fragile. Obviously, as stated in the beginning of the session, these two crises in particular, that is the COVID-19 pandemic, which began nearly 2.5 or 3 years back at a global level, and this Ukraine-Russia crisis, these crises have been affecting the global economy at a large scale, and obviously this has led to a slow progress towards the attainment of the sustainable development goals. And if we consider the analysis, Africa has been the worst performer in terms of the progress towards the attainment of the SDGs. So in the places like India, a lot of the basics are already there. India has the ambition and the ability to achieve the great progress. The tools are all there. That is, the political will is strong, which is the main requirement. The stability in the overall leadership pattern. That is the main ingredient of success for a particular economy. There is consumer-facing financial inclusion. This is our second point of strength. That is, there is consumer-facing financial inclusion that can build on a regulatory environment. Thirdly, there is a thriving innovation environment and a growing business sector. That is, as all of us are aware of these concepts of total quality management, Kaizen, that is continuous, that is the focus on continuous improvement. We are performing at a very good rate if we consider the innovation aspect in the industrial sector of the Indian economy. So there is a capability to design and deliver the public policy. So the ingredients of progress are all there, and the country just needs to make concerted efforts to get the engines moving. This statement has been given by Ms. Ghosh. So I repeat, the areas of strength being appreciated at an international level at the Gates Foundation. They are, firstly, the tools are all there. Firstly, that is, the political will is strong here. Secondly, there is the consumer-facing financial inclusion that can build on a regulatory environment. Thirdly, there is a thriving innovation environment and a growing business sector. And most importantly, there is a capability to design and deliver the public policy. So the ingredients of progress are all there, and we just need to basically strategize our policies in which we can give proper justice to our areas of strength. On the government's move to keep the women at the center of many of its welfare programs, Ghosh said such an approach was a forcing mechanism to include the most vulnerable. It does not exclude men, but if you are thinking about the hardest to reach, you are better reaching your people. That, as a design of public policy, is quite effective. That is, we need to target the most vulnerable segment of the society. Considering the orthodox structure of the Indian economy, women were not given much opportunities. But now, if our policies, not if, they actually are, but now as our policies are actually women centric, all policies are being made to actually give prime importance to women. That is the main ingredient of success. That is women empowerment, women leadership. This does not mean that we are ignoring men. No, we are giving equal importance to both the genders, right? That is respecting the basic existence of a being, be it a male, be it a female, right? So this is actually very important. And all these points, all these points in which we are analyzing the core areas of strength of the Indian society, these areas of strength have been appreciated by the international agency, that is the Gates Foundation. So this is actually very, very important highlight, and we need to capitalize more and more in order to become actually the pioneer in our overall specialities. So elaborating on the approach, she added that focus on data and targeting of most vulnerable was critical. While it is important to look at the whole nutrition story holistically and not just at the cereals and the overall intake of calories, it is also important to look at the targeting and access. Most often, food is distributed to the families and women don't get to eat. So how you target the most vulnerable so that the person last to eat is covered is actually very important. So that's the main crux. That's the main crux, that targeting the most vulnerable so that we reach the last person of the pyramid, giving equal importance to all the segments of the society. COVID-19 has actually exacerbated gender equality as women's access to the nutritional support and child care became very difficult, she added. We found many women gave up their jobs to take care of children at home, and it has been difficult for many of them in the informal sector to get back to work. Obviously, COVID had led to a lot of imbalance in the society, and the unorganized sector of the Indian economy was the worst affected. People were actually unemployed. People got unemployed as many of the companies just asked their employees to leave because of the slowdown of the overall economy. Structured sectors, organized sectors were still able to survive this crisis, but unorganized sector was actually very badly affected, and in that sectors, especially women who need to take care of the work-life balance at a higher level in comparison to men. So they were the first ones to be asked to leave the organization. She also stated, many regions of the world are at the intersection of the effects of climate and the global economy, and the overall challenge is to think about inclusive economic growth in this situation. Talking specifically in the crisis, many countries such as Afghanistan, Sri Lanka, and Pakistan were facing. So basically, she states that the worst affected countries in this particular crisis, in this particular sensitive times which are going on, and we don't know till when will this time continue, because the situation is becoming more and more intense with each passing day if we talk specifically about this ongoing Ukraine-Russia war. So we all of us are aware that Afghanistan, Sri Lanka, and Pakistan are the countries which they are the countries which were the worst affected in the recent past. They suffered a major political and this leadership crisis, a lot of economic turmoil. So, considering the concept of one world family, we need to think in a more holistic way. That is, many regions of the world are actually at the point of intersection if we analyze the effects of climate and global economy. Hence, it's a challenge if we think about the inclusion if we think about the inclusion of the concept, that we need to think holistically so that the inclusive economic growth is focused in a situation like this should be our main area of focus, so that our policies also help to sustain the weak economies across the globe, like Sri Lanka, Pakistan, and Afghanistan. That is, we should not only think to sustain ourselves, but we should think to sustain and but we should think to help our friends as well. And that's what India basically did in the COVID crisis as well. In the COVID crisis and this ongoing Ukraine-Russia crisis, that is, it helped to supply vaccines to many countries in the COVID crisis, and in this ongoing Ukraine-Russia crisis, when there was the food shortage, it helped to supply because of the supply chain disruptions. It actually helped to supply food in order to help the needy countries to face this crisis. This is very important. Also, when Sri Lanka faced with the crisis, with the overall economic crisis, financial crisis, political crisis, the leadership crisis, then also India played a very important role to help Sri Lanka at the best possible level. So this is very important, and that's why our country is being appreciated at a global platform. So what inspiration we should draw from this is that we should keep on continuing our efforts, and we should actually be proud of our strategic thinkers, our leaders, who are working day and night to help their citizens to actually live in a protective environment. They help to develop the protective shield around the nation, around the overall economy of the nation, so that we can meet the basic needs for our livelihood in this times of great sensitivity. So this is very important. Now, the next point we are going to address is that our country has also been that is the performance of our country has also been appreciated by the CEO of Gates Foundation, Mark Sussman, in terms of our performance in response to in actually the response to the COVID-19 pandemic. It has been stated that India has showed great global leadership in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. India showed great global leadership in response to the COVID-19 pandemic, and if there was a United Nations mandated sustainable development goal for its management, then the country would have registered tremendous success. Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation CEO Mark Sussman recently said last week. So basically here it's being said that if there has been the sustainable development goal for management, our country would have registered tremendous success. This is very important, and this shows that the overall strategic framework being followed by our leaders in the COVID-19 pandemic, that is organizing of the lockdowns. The overall planning was so long term that it had helped our country to not face the tough time, because had the lockdown been not held, it would have led to massive spread of this COVID-19 pandemic across the country. And if this COVID-19 pandemic had spread to the rural population and at a large scale, if it would have spread, it would have been a very sorry situation for our leaders. But this particular thing of the overall management, especially in case of crisis, is being appreciated by the global by the global pioneers, is actually very, very important highlight, right? So in an interview to the PTI, Sussman said, India has been a great example of how to continue with the development trajectory notwithstanding various challenges, and that the models developed in the country can accelerate the overall progress globally. He said India's success in getting more than 200 crore doses of COVID vaccine and reaching a 90% vaccination rate was a real demonstration. Was actually a real demonstration to the world of the kind of action that can be taken to contain the pandemic. This is actually another highlight being made by an international organization, that is, firstly, the timely conducting of the lockdowns. Secondly, that is actually mandating for the public to get vaccinated as soon as possible within the given time frame, that is the 90% vaccination. So our country's strategies are the great example towards the world. That's what this great leader has stated, that the 90% vaccination rate was a real demonstration to the entire world of the kind of action that can be taken to contain the pandemic. This is really excellent. This is really an excellent approach to contain the pandemic. So this is the basic ingredient, or this is the basic trait for a successful leader, for a visionary leader. So the basic ability to take correct decisions in the crisis with a stable, peaceful mind, and with great conviction is the trait of a true leader. The overall strategies which are being made with a long-term perspective and with a visionary attitude is a very important trait, and that's what we are possessing. So we should be proud of this. We should be proud of our leadership. The top executive of the Gates Foundation also hailed India's leadership in the production of COVID vaccines and the country's digital vaccination platform CoWIN, adding that it is basically a test case and a model for smartly using the digital tools. So as in the world, we know that the wave of this innovation is going on in terms of this transformation towards this digital world. India performed quite well in this COVID pandemic crisis to give equal justice to this particular innovation concept. Susman's comments came on a day the foundation released its sixth annual goalkeepers report that noted that nearly every indicator of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals is off the track at the halfway point for achieving those by 2030. So, this is a very important point which I need to repeat. Susman's comments came on the day the foundation released its sixth annual goalkeepers report that noted that nearly every indicator of the UN Sustainable Development Goals is off the track at the halfway point for achieving those by 2030. So basically, that's what we are being highlighting, that because of these sensitive times, that is COVID-19 pandemic and then this Ukraine-Russia war which is going on, our target to achieve maximum success for the attainment of these 17 Sustainable Development Goals, our progress has been quite slow. So in 2015, the United Nations finalized a set of Sustainable Development Goals, that is SDGs, that are focused on ending poverty around the world and ensuring a new prosperity for everyone. The goals are popularly known as SDGs, which is an acronym for the Sustainable Development Goals. While there is not an SDG on COVID, India's success in getting over 2 billion doses and reaching 90% vaccination rate was a real demonstration to the world of the kind of action that can be taken, again highlighted by the great pioneer leader Mr. Susman, CEO of the Gates Foundation. He also cited India's leadership in the overall manufacturing skills for the vaccines, including the Serum Institute and Bharat Biotech, and said the foundation has been having long-standing partnerships with the two companies. He says, "I think in the context of India, which has already shown great global leadership in health and in the response to COVID directly, it is both an opportunity to continue the focus the government has been making on accelerating the progress domestically on the SDGs, but also really supporting some broader global leadership, especially as India moves into chairing the G20 next year, about trying to advance some of these priorities globally. Susman said, G20 is one of the most powerful groupings globally, and India will assume its presidency for a year from December 1, 2022 to November 30, 2023. Susman also listed the overall dramatic progress made by India and some other countries in various development parameters, including poverty reduction and slashing the child mortality rate. Talking about the knock-on effects of the pandemic, he referred to a broader set of interventions across health, education, financial access, and other tools in order to deal with the challenges, and complemented India's COVID digital vaccination platform. For example, the COVID app that basically used on building the other system is a great global model that we think has potential. Perhaps through the G20, people through other channels to show how other countries, including in Africa, could take and develop their own interventions for, in this case, health, he said. So we can actually, with the progressive strategic framework, with our progressive leadership qualities, which are helping us to accelerate the overall economic growth. In fact, the entire holistic growth. That is our ability to deal with the crisis, which is being appreciated at the global platform. That we are basically acting as the role models for the entire world. Keeping in mind, we are a developing country. This is a very important point. And basically, if we talk about this move to go actually digital in these times of crisis, we managed to do wonders with the COVID app. This is really wonderful. Susman said the foundation is actively working to try and build on the Indian model for development. We are actually becoming the role model for the entire world. This is really great. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation CEO also highlighted India's strength in the production of paddy, especially referring to faster growing paddy that can adapt around climate conditions. India can continue its own development. India can continue its own development pace, because that makes a huge difference given the size and importance of India to the global numbers. But then also take some of those lessons and models that have been developed in India over the last few years and share them with other countries to see if we can actually help towards the progress at a global level. He is again and again emphasizing on the point that we should he's again and again emphasizing on the point that our strategies are an example towards the major countries across the globe. So he is saying that we should share our ideas with other countries to see if we can accelerate the progress globally. And we have been putting best efforts. Our leaders have been putting best efforts to help other countries in these times of crisis, as I'm repeatedly stating in my session, that we have helped in case of COVID crisis to supply the vaccines. We were able to manage this crisis in an excellent way, and we are managing it in an excellent way because of our well-planned, structured framework, well-planned policies, and well-planned implementation of those policies at the best possible level, which includes designing the CoWIN app to go digital, and how this digital tool helped to deal with this particular crisis in a more effective manner. So he's emphasizing the point that we should actually share our strategic framework policy management pattern with other countries as well, in order to help them also to get the main ingredients of how to cope with these tough times in a more planned and in a more planned and well approached framework. Susman said the goalkeeper's report is a real call to action for the world, as work on various development goals was significantly stalled as a result of the COVID pandemic. He also talked about the adverse impact of the food security crisis caused in part by the war in Ukraine, but more broadly by the climate change, noting that it is particularly affecting the sub-Saharan Africa and countries in Asia and Latin America. And so, it is a call to action, saying we need to redouble our efforts in order to actually try and meet some of the key goals, the Sustainable Development Goals, and it is still possible to meet several of them by 2030. It's not too late. Yes, it's not too late. Even if they are currently off track, such as the ones on reducing the child mortality and other areas like malaria, Susman said. Asked about the goalkeeper's report reflecting India's women-led self-help groups, that is SDGs, he said, the foundation worked in the area in India for years and found that the SDGs, that is the self-help groups, are an incredibly effective mechanism for women empowerment. So, as we said, that the women-centric approach towards policy formulation is the key to success. That is, targeting the most vulnerable segment of the society is the basic ingredient of success, and that holds true for the self-help groups as well. So it does not mean that we are ignoring the other segments. It just means that we are targeting the most vulnerable segment, and hence it means that we are giving equal importance to all sections of the society. That's the important component in order to attain development. In order to attain the development goals in a well-balanced way. He further said that SDGs ensure the access of resources to women, and they are much more likely to invest their resources in their family and in their children. which leads automatically to the better health outcomes, better nutrition, and better access to education. I think it needs no explanation. It is self-explanatory. In India, the concept is very different actually. Here, women are more concerned for their family. So if our policies are women-centric, obviously we are helping. We are basically being able to reach each and every member of the society. It also often empowers women to take more roles in this entrepreneurship in both informal and formal sector. The formal labor force is basically getting better markets and overall benefits. That's what it's saying, that women are also progressing in this entrepreneurship segment as well, be it the formal sector, be it the informal sector. Our overall policy framework is encouraging women to do wonders in this role as well. That is, women empowerment is the basic requirement for the society to flourish. And mind you, all these highlights, all these points have been observed and they are concretely analyzed and put forward by the international agency, the leading international agency, the Gates Foundation, and the CEO of this foundation is putting all these points forward in front of us, which we are discussing here. Goalkeepers is the foundation's campaign to accelerate progress towards the Sustainable Development Goals, and this is the key area of focus for the entire global economy, that is the Sustainable Development Goals. So by sharing the stories and data behind the global goals through an annual report, the foundation says it basically hopes to inspire a new generation of leaders, goalkeepers who raise awareness of progress, hold their leaders accountable, and drive action in order to achieve the global goals. This is the basic agenda of the goalkeepers as put by the CEO of the Bill Gates Foundation. I repeat once again. So by sharing the stories and the data behind the global goals through an annual report, the foundation says it hopes to inspire a new generation of leaders, that is, the goalkeepers who raise awareness of progress, hold their leaders accountable, and drive action to achieve the global goals more effectively. Mind you, we are using the word global goals. We are not saying organizational goals. We are not saying the goals of a particular society, or the goals of a particular segment, or the goals of a particular nation. We are saying global goals. We are targeting the entire global economy. All these points being put forward are being made keeping in mind one world family, and India is being presented as the role model country for its excellent strategic framework. Its overall policy, implementation, and management is being appreciated at a global level. And our country also got highlighted specifically in case of the COVID-19 pandemic, and our ability to not only sustain ourselves but also help our neighboring countries, and all the countries we can help with our best possible with our best possible efforts. This is actually an excellent quality, and that's why our country is being highlighted. It's a mixed variety of cultures, of actually, it is actually multilinguistic language. It is actually a multilingual country, multicultural country. A lot of diverse groups reside here. Yes, we know this, but now our special trait to help other countries, to help our friends, our neighbors, to all countries we can approach, is actually a very important point, which is actually being recognized at a global level. And also, in this crisis, we are not only managing, we are not only putting our efforts to actually manage this crisis, to actually survive in this crisis, to sustain ourselves in this crisis, or to help other countries in a crisis. We are also working equally towards our economic goals. To actually establish our international relationships with important countries across the globe, with our best possible skills in terms of negotiations. We are doing wonders there, and there the entire agenda, the entire area of focus is sustainable development. With whichever country we are signing, we are actually signing the pact to enhance our trade relationship. We are basically working on the vision of sustainable development. So on September 25, 2015, at the United Nations headquarters in New York, 193 world leaders committed to the attainment of the 17 SDGs, that is the Sustainable Development Goals. These are a series of ambitious objectives and targets to achieve the three extraordinary things by 2030. Firstly, to end poverty. Secondly, to fight inequality and justice. And thirdly, to fix the climate change. Basically, a set of 17 SDGs was formulated, keeping in mind the three basic extraordinary things to focus on. That is, to end poverty, secondly, to fight inequality and injustice, and thirdly, to fix the climate change. Now we are going to elaborate the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, right? So we just go through those set of 17 SDGs. So, dear friends, so the Department of Economic and Social Affairs of the United Nations has basically designed the 17 set of Sustainable Development Goals, basically keeping in loop 193 member countries. And the main areas of focus are as follows. The first goal being to end poverty in all its form everywhere, which basically has 7 targets, 53 events, 37 publications, and 1,172 actions till now. Second target is to end hunger, achieve food security and improved nutrition, and promote sustainable agriculture. Till now, in this particular goal, 8 targets have been set, 42 around 43 events have been held, 14 publications have been made, and 1,072 actions have been undertaken. Then third goal is to ensure healthy lives and promote well-being for all at all ages. In this particular goal, 13 targets have been achieved, 18 events have been held, 35 publications have been made, and 978 actions have been undertaken. Our fourth goal is to ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and hence promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. In this particular goal, 10 targets have been set, 21 events have been held, 8 publications have been made, and 1,514 actions have been undertaken. Then the fifth sustainable development goal is to achieve gender equality and empower all women and girls. And here I would like to say, as actually being highlighted by the global agency, Bill Gates Foundation CEO, India is doing wonders, and India can actually be a role model for the major economies across the globe. That is to demonstrate that is our strategies can actually be the tool to demonstrate to the entire world for effective strategic formulation, implementation, and management. So coming back to the fifth sustainable development goal, which is to achieve gender equality and empower all women and girls. In this particular goal, 9 targets have been set, 32 events have been held, 34 publications have been made, and 1,279 actions have been undertaken till now. Then our sixth goal is to ensure availability and sustainable management of water and the overall sanitation for all. Now, in the attainment of this particular goal, 8 targets have been set, 18 events have been held, 32 publications have been made, and 910 actions have been undertaken. This particular analysis which we are going through in each of the goals is for the overall is actually being made for the entire member nations. That is for the entire set of member nations. That is for all 193 member countries. Now the 17th the seventh SDG is to ensure access to the affordable, reliable, sustainable, and modern energy for all, in which 5 targets have been set, 12 events have been held, 32 publications have been made, and 841 actions have been undertaken till now. Now, goal 8 is to promote sustained, inclusive, and sustainable economic growth, full and productive employment, and decent work for all. Now towards the attainment of this goal, 12 targets have been set, 54 events have been held, 36 publications have been made, and 1,582 actions have been undertaken. Ninth goal is to build resilient infrastructure, promote inclusive and sustainable and the overall sustainable industrialization, and foster innovation, in which 8 targets have been made, 40 events have been held, 14 publications have been made, and 772 actions have been undertaken. 10th goal is to reduce inequality within and among the countries. Mind you, the term is to end equality, or to reduce the inequality within and among the countries. That is, we have to work towards reducing inequality within our own borders and for our member countries as well. That is to self-sustain yourself and to help your member countries as well. Now, towards the attainment of this particular goal, 10 targets have been set, 34 events have been held, 11 publications have been made, and 773 actions have been undertaken. 11th goal is to make cities and human settlements inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable. Now, towards the attainment of this particular goal, 10 targets have been set, 37 events have been held, 16 publications have been made, and 933 actions have been undertaken. Now, the 12th goal is to ensure sustainable consumption and production patterns. Now, towards the attainment of this particular goal, 11 targets have been set, 10 events have been held, 13 publications have been made, and 1,254 actions have been undertaken. Our 13th Sustainable Development Goal is to take urgent action to combat climate change and its impacts. Now, towards the attainment of this particular goal, 5 targets have been made, 15 events have been held, 33 publications have been made, and 1,512 actions have been undertaken. Now, the 14th goal is to conserve and sustainably use the oceans, seas, and marine resources for sustainable development. So what we are actually seeing, we are trying to focus each and every possible segment we can target to actually conserve and actually protect and preserve the integrity, which is actually helping to sustain, to give justice to each and every possible segment of the society which is supporting the livelihood. We are trying to cover each and every aspect in this set of 17 sustainable development goals. This is truly incredible, and this set was designed by the careful analysis, careful thinking, careful strategic thinking by our strategic leaders across the globe, of which 193 countries have taken part. And though there has been a slowdown towards the attainment of these SDGs because of the global crisis being going on, but still we should not give up. We should, all our policies, all our efforts should be made, be it economic goals, be it financial goals, any type of development should be made keeping in mind these sustainable development goals. Every type of policy, every type of decision making in any form should address any any of these sustainable development goals. This is the basic lesson we are learning, and we should be proud. Our country is being presented as a role model towards the entire globe after the careful analysis being made by this particular global international agency, Bill Gates Foundation. This is really worth an applause. Now, we come back to our topic. We were actually on goal 14, that is to conserve and sustainably use the oceans, seas, and marine resources for sustainable development. Now towards the attainment of this particular SDG, 10 targets have been set, 60 events have been held, 38 publications have been made, and 2,585 actions have been undertaken. Now, goal 15 is basically to protect, restore, and promote sustainable use of the terrestrial ecosystems, sustainably manage the forests, combat the overall process of this deserts formation, and halt and reverse land degradation and halt biodiversity loss. This is truly incredible and so beautiful, the way the way these goals have been set to not miss even an inch of the global issue which needs to be addressed. This is really commendable, really commendable. Now, towards the attainment of this particular 15th SDG, 12 targets have been set, 15 events have been held, 31 publications have been made, and 932 actions have been implemented. Now, goal 16 is basically to promote peaceful and inclusive societies. To promote peaceful and inclusive societies for sustainable development, provide access to justice for all, and build effective, accountable, and inclusive institutions at all levels. I repeat, 16th goal is basically to promote peaceful and inclusive societies for sustainable development, provide access to justice for all, and build effective, accountable, and inclusive institutions at all levels. Now, towards the attainment of this particular goal, 12 targets have been made, 20 events have been held, 11 publications have been made, and 827 actions have been undertaken. Now, our goal 17 is basically to strengthen the means of implementation and hence revitalize the global partnership for the sustainable development. I repeat, the goal 17 is to strengthen the means of implementation and hence revitalize the global partnership for sustainable development. Now, towards the attainment of this goal, 19 targets have been accomplished, 126 events have been held, 61 publications have been made, and 1,715 actions have been implemented. Now, this was the basic crux of the set of the 17 SDGs Sustainable Development Goals, which was made after the thorough analysis by the 193 member countries to actually strategize in terms of priority the key areas to be focused on for the holistic development of the global economy. We are talking of the global economy. This is very, very important. Now I also stated on the point that being made by our respectable CEO of the Bill Gates Foundation that if there was an SDG on COVID-19 management, India would have shown tremendous success. India is basically a test case and model for smartly using the digital tools to improve the development. And if there was a UN mandated sustainable development goal for the COVID-19 management in particular, the country would have shown tremendous success. Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation CEO Mark Sussman said. So, as I had stated, Sussman said, India has shown great examples on how to continue its own development trajectory, notwithstanding various challenges, including that of the pandemic, and the lessons and models that developed in the country can actually accelerate the progress globally. Now, dear friends, we would like to address another important aspect on which India needs to focus. Till now, we basically discussed our key areas of strength being appreciated at a global level, right? Our basic highlights which are being made at a global platform, for which we are being applauded, and for which inspirations are actually being made for the demonstration of to be to actually act as a demonstrator to the entire world. Our overall strategic framework is being applauded in terms of the crisis management policies, the overall thinking pattern, the overall long-term strategic thinking pattern has been applauded. But now, dear friends, we also need to focus on the areas we need to work on, because as I would like to mention, it has been highlighted that the level of hunger in India is actually serious. It ranks 107 on 2022 Global Hunger Index. India ranked 107 out of 121 countries in the Global Hunger Index 2022, with its child wasting rate at 19.3%, being the highest in the world. Yes, it's the topic of concern, dear friends. It's the topic of concern. And for this, as I stated in actually the beginning of the session, when I was addressing a particular point, where we need to work on in order to reduce the child mortality rate for the age bracket of 0 to 5, we need to focus on increasing the mass awareness campaigns, especially addressing the rural population of India, because they contribute the highest section of the society, of the Indian society. Also, as the efforts are being made towards increasing the sanitation to make places more hygienic, right? As we had stated that our PM Modi has mandated and encouraged towards that every home should have a toilet. When we talk about the rural population, so these efforts are being made just to fulfill one agenda of actually the minimization of the diseases, the spread of the diseases. This is the basic criteria, or it can also be correlated to the infant mortality rate, or for the children aged in the bracket of 0 to 5, right? Now let's discuss the analysis once again. India ranked 107 out of 121 countries. This is really a very bad performance. As per the Global Hunger Index 2022 report, with its child wasting rate at 19.3%, being the highest in the world. The Global Hunger Index, that is GHI, is basically a tool for comprehensively measuring and tracking hunger at global, regional and national levels. With a score of 29.1, the level of hunger in India has been labeled serious. In Asia, Afghanistan, with a rank of 109, is the only country behind India. Otherwise, the neighboring countries, Pakistan is ranked 99, Bangladesh is ranked 84, Nepal is ranked 81, and Sri Lanka is ranked 64. And they have all fared better than India in this particular aspect of Global Hunger Index. And this is the recent most report for this particular year, that is 2022. In 2021, India ranked 101 out of 116 countries, while in 2020 the country was placed at the 94th position. So this means we are going downwards. In 2020 it was at 94th position. In 2021 it was at 101 position out of 116 countries, and now in 2022, out of 121 countries, it is ranked 107. South Asia, the region with the world's highest hunger level, has the highest child stunting rate and by far the highest child wasting rate in the world, the report said. India's child wasting rate at 19.3% is the highest of any country in the world and drives up the region's average owing to India's large population, it said. India, Pakistan, and Afghanistan each have child stunting rates between 35 and 38%, with Afghanistan's rate being the highest in the region. So, undernourishment prevalence rose in India from 14.6% in 2018 to 2020 to 16.3% in 2019 to 2021. So this basically translates into 224.3 million people in India being undernourished, and out of the total 828 million people globally. This is really a very serious point on which we should focus, and we really need to work hard in this particular aspect. Child wasting, which is a strong predictor of mortality among children under 5 years of age, also worsened from 15.1% in 2012-16 to 19.3% in 2017-21. India, however, noted improvement in two parameters of child stunting from 38.7% in 2012-16 to 35.5% in 2017-21, and child mortality from 4.6% in 2014 to 3.3% in 2020. The Global Hunger Index, the Global Hunger Index, that is GHI, said stunting disparities between the districts were particularly pronounced in India. The example of India shows the importance of considering the subnational context when designing the programs and policies to target child stunting. Researchers investigated the factors that contributed to a decline in stunting in over 4 Indian states between 2006 and 2016, that is Chhattisgarh, Gujarat, Odisha, and Tamil Nadu. This is a very important point, hence I repeat it. The example of India basically shows the importance of considering the subnational context when designing the programs and policies to target the child stunting. Researchers investigated the factors that contributed to a decline in stunting in 4 Indian states between 2006 and 2016. And the 4 states are Chhattisgarh, Gujarat, Odisha, and Tamil Nadu. The report said that the researchers found that stunting fell mainly in response to the improvements in the coverage of health and nutrition interventions, household conditions such as socioeconomic status and food security, and overall maternal factors such as mother's health and education. Now, why did India perform well in this particular aspect? This is basically because of 3 main reasons. That is the coverage of health and nutrition interventions, household conditions such as socioeconomic status and food security, and third factor is that is considering the overall maternal factors such as mother's health and education. So basically, where we are basically landing to, that is targeting the most vulnerable segment of the society, the segment which was ignored in earlier times, that is women. That is the very important aspect. That is the very important aspect. If we realize the importance, the overall significance of this particular aspect, no one can stop us to flourish and touch the sky. The Global Hunger Index said the world is basically facing a serious setback in efforts to end hunger with conflict. The climate crisis and economic consequences of the COVID-19 pandemic, compounded by the war in Ukraine, are the major drivers of hunger. I repeat, the GHI said the world is facing a serious setback in efforts to end hunger with conflict. The climate crisis and the economic consequences of the COVID-19 pandemic, compounded by the war in Ukraine, are the major drivers of hunger. This is a very important point we need to consider. The report basically warned that the situation is expected to deteriorate further as the global crises overlap. So, dear friends, we know that the times are going to become more and more sensitive, much intense to what is prevailing right now, right? So what can help us to deal with this crisis in the most effective manner? We basically require a stable mindset, perseverant and long-term visionary thinking, strategic thinking. So this type of leadership, and not only our leaders should possess this particular trait, all of us carry the equal responsibility we need to bear in our minds in order to cope with this crisis. Yes, my friends, it's the need